Good morning, Rabbi Sai. All right, with Daf Nun Beis Amud Aleph on top. Oh yeah, you know, we're in the middle of a brayso. We have a pasuk. Oh yeah, you know, el mizbeach shel oila yeh la yisoid. So let's jump into this yisoid thing here. Yeah, yisoid. Here we go. Ready? What is the yisoid? The yisoid is the base of the mizbeach. I think by the red. You see the red? You should not do the Zrika over there, but by the green you could. Maybe that's what the pasuk is. Who told you the pasuk is coming to talk about Shirayim? Perhaps it's just the Zrika has to be by the green area, wherever there's a base, because not the entire Mizbeach has a base. Wherever there's a base, then we do Zrika. Wherever there isn't, no. Says the Gemara, Michsiv El Yisoid Ha'oila. Doesn't say the base of the carbon oila. El Yisoid Mizbach Ha'oila Ksiv. What's Mizbach? Mizbach comes to tell us that all the korbanos, every single one, has a chiyuv to do the shirayim over there. Says the Gemara, "Ihaviksiv el yisoid ha'oila." Wait a minute, it's not true. You're telling me that the word mizbach is extra. No, ihaviksiv el yisoid ha'oila havamina bezkifa el yisoid. So it goes like this. There's beautiful over here. You can see it. This is the yisoid, right? So I think that you could put the blood. We know that you have to put the blood on the green area. You have to pour it. What if you put it on the red? Are you yaitza? No. That's what the pasuk comes to say. Pasuk says there's one area on the mizbeach that you're not allowed to put it on. The area closest to the floor. I don't know if it's what the reason is. Maybe because it's not so chashav. It's next to the floor. But it's supposed to be on the green area. And Taisus points out green and above, meaning of course you could put it on a wall, but not the bottom wall, the top wall, everything above the green. Havamina b'skivel yisoid. Hashdach sivel yisoid mizbach ha'oila. Agagi the yisoid. It's telling you have to be on the top, on the roof of the yisoid, on the horizontal part of the yisoid, not the vertical. Omer Bishmal gag yisoid lam likra. Why do I need a pasuk b'chlal for the roof? The leftover blood of a chatas. It doesn't really do much. It doesn't create a forgiveness, a kapara. Yet you must put it on top, on the roof part of the side. Certainly, the beginning part of the zrikas, the initial parts of the carbon which give a kapara and then shetuna gag side. Of course, you need the gag. Amar Kiva. And then comes Rabbi Kiva and says the same exact thing. The only difference between Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel are two words that seem redundant. They're almost the same. So basically they're saying the same. The Gemara is going to ask, what's the difference between them? Same kavachaymer. Mash your chat Hashem chaper. Oh, there's no kapara. But then he sticks in vein boim lechaper, and they don't come to give a kapara. Tunagag yisoid tchilasoid l'shem chaperes uba lechaper. It does come for kapara. And it did shetuna gag yisoid, same kavachayim. So why do I need the pasuk? Tein yisoid mizbeach shelo. That's what we had yesterday. Tein yisoid mizbeach shelo just means that the shirayim must go on the yisoid. My binayu. But what is the difference between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva? They said the exact same thing. Plus or minus this word ve'im boim lechaper. Uba lechaper. But Rabbi Shmuel also says it comes through a kapara. He just adds uba lechaper. So what's the difference? Okay, we came to the conclusion that you have to put the shirayim on the mizbeach. But what happens if you don't put the shirayim on the mizbeach? Do you have to redo it again? So very interesting though. What does ma'akvi mean? Up until now, daf nun aleph on the base, 50 daf into Zevachim. Ma'akiv, what does ma'akiv mean to you? What does ma'akiv mean? Think about it for a second. It's ma'akiv. And then what? What do you do if it's ma'akiv? It doesn't work. And then what? Do what again? Did the guy get a kapara? No kapara. That's ma'akiv. Rashi says over here he gets kapara. It makes sense. Think about it. Let's break it down. He did the 4 zrikas on the mizbeah. You got a kapara, didn't get a kapara. The second you do the last zrika, boom, it's over. You got a kapara. So now what? Now I have to take the blood and pour the rest, the leftover, on the mizbeach, and it's ma'akev. Not that it undoes your kapara. You had a kapara. So then what's ma'akev? Ma'akev that you have to shecht another animal and do another shirayim, but the kapara happened, says Rashi. Rav Papa Omar, the kuli alma shirayim ei ma'akvim. Oh, says Rav Papa, listen, shirayim is not ma'akiv. Don't worry about it. You don't have to shecht another carbon. So v'hacha, b'mitzvah chatas ha'if ma'akiv komifli. The machlekes is something completely different. When you shecht a bird, there's not enough blood in a bird to pour into a vessel and capture it and then pour it from there. So what do? First you have to do hazah. Depends what kind of bird. We said enough community between an oila and a chatas. Let me see if I can find it here. Oh, this is hazah. He takes it and he, like a ball, you have to toss it toward, you're not hitting the mizbech with the actual bird. Something like that, okay? That's hazah. Then, there's mitzui. This is mitzui. You give it a good squeeze on the mizbech. Actually, we have another one. Let's do the other one. Here, because this is more for us. I don't think there's that much blood, but okay. The saber seyonayim. You give it a kvetch, a good squeeze. Is that ma'akiv? That thing? What if there's not enough blood in the bird to give it a kvetch? So we have machlokes whether or not the last bloods of the bird are ma'akiv. So we have a raya to Rav Papa that what shirayim loy ma'akiv, like the Yethed Ne'eman. It says by the par Mashiach, the par of the Kohen Gadol, he does an avera. It's kol adam yishpoich. Matam lo yomar hapar. Why does the Torah say the word par? Limed al parim kippurim. So from the Kohen Gadol I jump and have a limo to Yom Kippur. Shetov matan dom le'yisayid. The Yom Kippur needs blood on the yisayid divrei Rebbe. Omer Rabbi Shmuel kavachomer. I have a kavachomer. So this is, to me it's fascinating. I don't care if you guys don't think so. I think it's fascinating. You don't catch him. If the Torah says something twice, Shon olav akosov lakiv. It makes it, you have to do it. Says Rashi, when Rabbi Shmuel adds a kavachomer, he was ma'akiv. It became twice. Once in the Torah, second time in a kavachomer. That's 2. 1 + 1 = 2. Lakiv. That's what Rashi says. Not that he's trying to say, why do I need a pasuk? In addition to the pasuk, now I have a kavachomer, now I have 2. If you don't have to go and do it, you still need a yisoid. Here's another fascinating thing. You read it, it just doesn't make sense. The Parkan Gadol, you don't have to bring the dam into bifnim? Of course you have to. So why does the Gemara say you don't have to? The answer is, because he doesn't have to bring a carbon. He shouldn't do a chet. His chet is not necessary. If he sins, yes, you're right, you must bring it inside. But he doesn't have to sin. He doesn't have to make mistakes. But Yom Kippur you have to bring. Every single year you have to bring a carbon Yom Kippur. That's a must. So Gavachomer is a Kohen Gadol who doesn't have to sin. Yet he has to put his blood on the Yisod. The carbon on Yom Kippur that you do it year after year, and you must bring the blood inside. And in addition to Yisod, certainly you need the Yisod. Here, once again. This is slightly different, not the same as before. But he says, you don't have to bring the blood into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Par Kohen Mashiach doesn't go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. What goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim? Yom Kippur's things. Bein l'chayva, bein l'mitzvah, ton yisoid. So certainly, Misha Nichnas Dama Chayva Lefnai Lefnim, and it did ton yisoid. When you have to bring the blood into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, certainly you should need the yisoid. If the Kohen Gadol, you don't need the Yisoid. You need the Yisoid even though you don't go into Kodesh HaKadoshim. Certainly when you go into Kodesh HaKadoshim, you should need the Yisoid. Yochol Yakvenu. Now we understand what the Gemara's question is. Yochol Yakvenu. I think there's a Ma'akiv. Why is there a Ma'akiv? Because they have 2 sources. One is a pasuk, one is a Kavachomer. Tamaloymer v'kilo mikaper zaf kodesh. Shalmu kol kaparas kulon. In other words, once I do all the zrikas, I'm done. I'm finished. The shirayim comes afterwards. What comes afterwards is not ma'akiv. Shirayim is not ma'akiv, like Rav Papa. Divrei Rabbi Yishmael. Kavachoymer leparkoy Mashiach. We have a kavachoymer before we learned the Yom Kippur from Kohen Gadol. Kavachoymer leparkoy Mashiach. Mi'ata, so if so, umami shein nichnas dama lifnim lechoyva v'loy mitzvah ton yisoid. We have the Nasi. Nasi, he doesn't bring his carbon into the. No, mishein nichnas dama lifnim lechoyva v'loy mitzvah ton yisoid. Lifnim over here is what? The heichal. Mishenichnas dome lefnim. Yeah, this is the Kohen Gadol. Kohen Gadol doesn't go to Kodesh Kodashim, but he goes to lefnim. Mishenichnas dome lefnim. Bein lechayva, bein lemitzvah, and within sheto and yisoid certainly should require the yisoid. Yochel yakvenu. Once again, I have a kavachoymer, so it's twice. So it's ma'akiv. Tamud loymar ve'eis kol dam apor yishpoich. Should say b'shofach. It says yishpoich nitkoy hakosov. So yishpoich is like a mitzvah. You should take this and pour it. So it says the Gemara, "V'asoy shior mitzvah loy v'chashirayim ei ma'akiv." It's like a lav anitik lasei. It becomes like a mitzvah, but it's not ma'akiv. Okay. So in Mela we have, you see, like Rav Papa, that shiore hadam ei ma'akiv. V'sar Rabbi Yishmael. So now we're just going to go back because the Gemara said, "Oh, what's the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Kiva?" The machlokes is on something completely unrelated, whether or not you don't have what to squeeze out of the bird on the mizbech, or not. But Rabbi Yishmael means what Rabbi Yishmael actually holds that if you don't have enough blood to give a kvetch, it's ma'akev. Atana de Rabbi Yishmael v'hanishor b'adam yimatzei v'hanishor yimatzei v'she'eno nishor lo yimatzei. That if you don't have, you don't have. What are you going to do if you don't have? I went like this. I did this Rika, Chazarah. So there's nothing inside. The kvetch is not, it's not the end of the world. So says the Gemara, no, Trei Tanoia, value of the Rabbi Yishmael. You're right. It comes from Rabbi Yishmael, but there's machlokes in Rabbi Yishmael, whether or not you have to give it a kvetch or not. Our sugi holds, Rabbi Yishmael holds, it's ma'akiv. And here it says it's not ma'akiv. All my Roman Bar Chama. Haitana Sovar Shirayim Makvim. I have a Tana that does hold that Shirayim is Makvim. If you don't do it, you have to do it again for the Shirayim. The Sanyo Hakoina Mechate Oisa. Here also, I'm going to give you a little bit of a. Maybe you didn't chap this one when you're just reading. What's Hakoina Mechate Oisa? The Kohen who does Zrika, he gets to eat the carbon. So let's say Rabbi Schoenberg does the Zrika. She gets to eat the carbon. What about Danny Fine? Does he get to eat the carbon? No. Yes. Yes. Why? The Torah doesn't mean literally the kohen that does it. The kohen that's able to do it. Kohanim that are able to do the zrika, they get to eat it. Just the question is, I just wanted to throw it out. So what does Oisa mean? Why does it say Oisa? It says Hakoina Mechate, the one who does zrika. Oisa, it. Oisa shenitan dama lemala v'lo Oisa shenitan dama lemata. You can't mess up here's the line. If you put the blood above the red line where it really belongs, below the red line, you do it above instead of below, or below instead of above, you messed up. It's ma'akiv. Amris. What do you put above the red line? Doyle remembers? Chatos, what else? Oil soif. Amris. Where did you get this from? Amizbach v'goymer Adam zevacher yishav v'gam mizbach Lamanu linitonim b'matan arba shim nesonim b'matona ala achas keeper. If you mechuyev to do 4, the Gemara makes an interesting tushtel. The chiyuv is to put 4 matanos on 4 chatos. He's supposed to be on 4 kronos. Let's say 4, and you only did 1. It's good. So Mela, the Gemara wants to make a little bit of a jump, and if you're supposed to put it on top and you put it on the bottom, no, you're also good. You're supposed to do 4, you did 1, it's good. So if you're supposed to do it on top, you did it on bottom. What's the difference? You're supposed to put on 4 parts of the mizbeach, and you only put it on 1. You're supposed to put it on this part of the mizbech. You put it over here. Similar. So I have the son says no. You have no kapara. The blood that you're supposed to put on the bottom. So Rashi says, what's the blood that he's put on the bottom? Chatas oif. Why chatas oif? Because that's what it says in the Torah. The Torah talks about blood on the bottom by the bird chatas. You did it up above the red line. Lo yikiper, you don't get a kapara. The same thing. If you're supposed to put it on top, it's oil asoif. You're supposed to put it on top. Lo yikiper. Says the Gemara, loy. You can make a distinction between the upper bloods and the lower bloods. Why? The lower bloods that you did above, shein tzayif from l'malam, they don't belong on the top. They never go on the top. That's why lo keeper. But the upper bloods, shenesadim lamata, sheyesh mehem korev lamata. Remember, we had a sugya similar, and this drove me crazy on the plane because I thought I gave wrong pshat in that sugya. Why? I'll remind you, tell me what you say. But the bloods that you go on the top, they go to the bottom. So you remember we had that on Daf Chav Zayin. What did I say pshat then? Why do they go on the bottom? It drips down. And I look in Rashi, and Rashi says, no. You put the shirayim on the bottom. I'm like, whoa, maybe I said wrong pshat there. But no, Baruch Hashem, until I found it. Over there, that's the pshat. It drips down. Over here, we're talking about shirayim. Rabbi said the whole sugi is shirayim. The leftover. The shirayim. You know, even when you do inner bloods in the heichal, you still have to pour the blood. Where do you pour? You don't pour it in the heichal. There's only one place to pour the blood, and that's outside. And if you put it to begin with, to start out with, outside, there's no kapara. And the same thing should be with shirayim. Loi. No, you can't bring a raya. You know why? Because the inner bloods that they don't have like a kapara from the mizbech hapnimi. So it's really like a kula. The chatos is much more chamer. Why? If you miss one by the chatas, if it's one hazah, it's all over. But el yoinim, shari kronis b'margis oisam, they have a kula. That's how I learned it. There's a little bit of a kula here. In the son lamatok sherim, and so therefore it makes sense if you put it below the line, it's kosher. That's why I need isa shenitan dama lamalo v'lo shenitan dama lamato. You can't switch it around. If it belongs up, you put it up. You put it down. There's no kapara. My shame is bech hapnimi markum. What do you mean that the inner mizbech doesn't give it a kapara? Lav elu shirayim. So you see that shirayim is ma'akiv. So according to what you're saying, I have a kavachomer. Ma shirayim hapnim shesayim chayva b'chutz. The shirayim, the inner shirayim. But it comes outside, you have to bring it outside afterwards, nevertheless, even though eventually it's going to come outside. But if you started the azayis, you do it outside, there's no kapara, so certainly, when you put blood on top, and there's no reason to bring it below the red line. If you put blood where eventually it's going to go, which is outside. Eventually you have to do shirayim outside. And you start out, the zrikas, you do it outside, it's no good. So if you put blood where it eventually doesn't go, of course it's not good. So we have to switch it around. We're not talking about, you're right, we would have a good raya here that shirayim is ma'akev, but we're not talking about shirayim. What we're talking about is paroichas. You have to switch and say the raya is from paroichas. Here, this is the hazois of paroichas. That's what he's trying to say. Remember, we had hazois inside. Inside means the paroichas. Torah Rabbana, just one short sugi here. Hopefully we get there before Shachar. Torah Rabbana, v'kilim kaper. And actually we had this, so it's Chazarah. This Chazarah, whoever did Chazarah remembers this. It says two words. V'kila, he finished, mikaper. Which, I don't know how to translate exactly. Mikaper. He'll get a kapara. Im kiper, kila. If he did the kaparas, if im keeper kila, once he did the hazais, he finished. He's finished his job. In other words, what happens afterwards, the shirayim is not so important. He did the hazais. Bim loy keeper, loy kila. And if he didn't do the hazais, he didn't finish. Did Rebbe Kiva. Omer Rebbe Yehuda, that's Rebbe Kiva. So we have Machlokes Rebbe Kiva and Rebbe Yehuda. Omer Rebbe Yehuda, according to you, it should have said, why shouldn't we say im kila keeper? If he finished, he got a kapara. Not if he did a kapara, he finished. If he finished, he got a kapara. It fits better into the words. But basically, they're saying the same exact thing. It's just what word you say first. Again, Rebbe Kiva says if he was mechaper, he did azos, kila, he finished. And he's saying if he finished, then he gets a kapara. But isn't that the same thing? It's coming to say that you have to do all the matanis. But that's what Rebbe Kiva said. Rebbe Kiva said if you do all the matanis, you get a kapara. My benayu. So what's the difference between them? Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shua ben Leiba. This is machlokes if there's a difference or not. No. They say the exact same thing. The question is, how do you want to read the pasuk? You want to read it v'kila mekaper or mekaper v'kila? But they're saying the same exact thing. No, there's definitely a real machlokes lemaisa. What if you didn't do the shirayim on the side? Do you get a kapara or not? The stayim, the Rabbi Shua ben Levi who the Omar shirayim the makvi. It's Rabbi Shua. We have a machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shua ben Levi whether or not there's a machlokes at all. Here we have a first. Rabbi Shua ben Levi said that one of them, somebody holds that shirayim is makif. Don't Rabbi Shua ben Levi. The divrei ha'omer shirayim makif. Oh, according to that person that says shirayim is makif. In other words, Shimon Levi holds, one of these Tanaim holds that shirayim is makif. Maybe parecha do matche batchila b'fnim. You bring one, you have to shecht from wherever. Let's say the blood spilled, so you bring another par and you start from there. Because if you think about it, shirayim means leftover of something. So you got to shecht, and then you have leftover. And you continue from that point on. Other Rabbi Yochanan, let's say Haisfara, but Rabbi Yochanan also agrees that somebody says that shirayim is makif. So they're both saying the same thing, Rabbi Shimon Levi and Rabbi Yochanan, yet they're arguing whether there's machlokes. What do we do here? Other Rabbi Yochanan, Leslie Haisvar, Rabbi Yochanan, Tana Rabbi Nechem, Kedivri Oyim Shirayim Makvim. There is a mandoma that says Shirayim Makvim. So what are we going to do? Elo Kedivri Oyim V'lav Lav Tanoi. Yes, there's a Tana that says that Shirayim is Makvim, but not Rabbi Yehuda or Rabbi Kiva. In our machlokes that we just brought down between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Kiva, we still don't know who says what. Hachanami Kedivri Oyim V'lav Lav Tanoi. It's yes. Both Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shua ben Levi say that there's a Tana somewhere who holds that shirayim is makiv, but we don't have a raya whether they're talking about Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDAF.com.